You're live.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in half burnout Boulder Creek, California. I'm joined once again by my co-host, Glory Jones. And today we are very, very pleased to have back onto the show the incredible brain-breaking Whitney Webb. How are you this morning, Whitney?
Hey, I'm good. I actually ended up breaking my own brain over the weekend. We can get into some of that.
Totally want to hear about that.
Usually doesn't happen to me. I usually break other people's brains, right? But, it was only a matter of time till I did it to myself.
But by all means, how did this happen?
Right. You want me to get straight into it then?
Fuck yeah, dude. We got a lot to cover today.
So originally, right, we were going to talk about how during the debate or whatever that I didn't watch because fuck watching it. I just watch clips when they come out. Anyway, so there was the whole like dark winter thing about like Biden and Trump being like, it is going to be a dark winter. No, it's not. Okay. But the other thing that I think people should start paying attention to is what these people are saying about Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So you had during the debate, Trump say bad things happen in in Philadelphia. And then today he tweeted out that Philadelphia is out of control. Well, it turns out if you search for media reports over the past 2 weeks or so, you will be amazed at how many mainstream media reports refer to Philadelphia as ground zero, the epicenter of 2020, that the bullseye is moving over Pennsylvania or Philadelphia is in the center of the bullseye and all of this stuff. I mean, it's really eerie, the words they're using to describe Pennsylvania and Philadelphia specifically. You have Mother Jones with a picture of Pennsylvania literally on fire, but they're talking about in the article about vote counts, right? But they have Philadelphia literally on fire in the picture, and the headline is, "It's going to be hell." Okay, so this seems a little weird, right? For talking about vote counts, because the official thing that they're setting up with Philadelphia is that there's going to be confusion over the mail-in vote counts and that it's most likely to be an epicenter for fraud. But there is some really crazy shit going down in Philadelphia that has to do with my Cyber Reason series that I wrote in January that we could get into in a little bit. I don't know if you want me to refresh people on the Cyber Reason thing before I go further. Because it was a long time ago.
We may as well bring it up. I mean, I remember having you on, and I remember talking about it, and then so much has fucking happened between now and January that I'm sure we could all use a little refresher. But so, in due time.
I wrote a 3-part series about this company called Cyber Reason and their simulations of a doomsday scenario for the 2020 election that they started doing a year ago. And they've done several since then. And basically, Cyber Reason is an Israeli intelligence front company. Their head guy used to be the offensive hacker of nation states for Israel's Unit 200, which is like Israel's NSA. He admits that his role at Cyber Reason is a continuation of his time at Unit 8200, where he was offensively hacking other countries. Okay, so this guy's in charge of this cybersecurity company. One of their main investors is Lockheed Martin, which, of course, long-standing ties not just to the military-industrial complex, but the intelligence community. For example, the first head of the CIA's In-Q-Tel was a Lockheed Martin top executive, among other things, right? So these guys are like very plugged in. They also have a major ex-guy from the CIA on their board of advisors. So they're definitely like in between that space of Israeli and U.S. intelligence where that meets. And so last November, they started simulating what they called Operation Blackout, which is they were doing that with DHS and the Secret Service. And I think some other agencies, but I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But they basically simulated complete chaos on the day of the 2020 election. And of course, this was before all of the chaos was actually visible. Starting in like July and August, pretty much everyone in America started to figure out, wow, it sure looks like the 2020 election is going to be a giant clusterfuck, huh? But basically, if you paid attention to what Cyber Reason was doing and what the U.S. intelligence community and what Israeli intelligence were saying last year, they told you this chaos was coming, right? And they basically, if you look at these simulations, they essentially say that there's going to be a cyber 9/11 on election day. So that's basically my cyber reason series in a nutshell. And I went through in part 3 of that series all of these different mainstream media buzzwords that they used to seed that narrative for chaos last year. And so that's essentially how I was able to know, right, that it was going to be chaotic before the chaos was obvious a couple months later. So now we have that same type of buzzword seeding in the mainstream media narrative about Philadelphia, calling it ground zero, the epicenter, and all of this stuff. And it's not just like they're quoting the same guy and having, repeat, and that all these different reports are repeating the same quote from the same dude. It's all these different experts, these web of experts being quoted by these different outlets, like national outlets, local outlets, who are all at the same time all deciding to refer to Philadelphia with those terms, right? And then you have the fact that back in March, this top DHS official was saying, we are on every counterterrorism official I talked to here in the U.S. and among our foreign allies, I guess that means like the Five Eyes in Israel. They all believe that we're on the doorstep of another 9/11 and we can see it coming, but we can't quite stop it. That's what this top DHS lady told Congress in like March, I think. So, I mean, there's definitely some crazy stuff going on, but what's really fucking crazy is that, we've heard this narrative over the past few months as the whole chaos thing has come out. About, foreign hackers are going to hack critical infrastructure in the power grid and the election system and all of that stuff, which I also was also seeded last year too and predicted by Cybereason and this web of cybersecurity companies that are tied to either U.S. intelligence, Israeli intelligence, or both. And it turns out that in Philadelphia this year, there have been 2 conferences so far, and there's a third one a week before the election. But the first 2, all 3 of them are sponsored by the same people. But the first 2 were about, the first one was about selling cybersecurity software to hospitals and critical infrastructure. And then the second one didn't have the focus on healthcare. It was just on, security, general stuff, all focused in Philadelphia. Cybereason was one of the sponsors of those conferences, but there's 2 companies that really got my attention. One of them is, this is just the craziest fucking shit ever. So like the main sponsor of these conferences is a company called DarkTrace. And DarkTrace is an AI cybersecurity company based out of the UK. You look at its board of advisors, it's the former director of MI5. British intelligence, and before that, before 9/11, he was, right before 9/11, his bio even says this, became the UK's intelligence community top international counter-terror guy, like 10 days before 9/11. Then under him, you have this guy, Alan Wade. And Alan Wade is someone that I've been waiting to write about because he's supposed to go on my series on the Maxwell family. He's the guy that co-founded Gilead with Christine Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell's sister, that became the big counterterrorism software after 9/11. He's also the guy, at the time he founded that company, he was chief information officer of the CIA. And at that time, before 9/11, chief information officer of the CIA meant you were the chief information officer of the entire U.S. intelligence community. And he was in that role on the day of 9/11. Okay? Then this is the guy that before he left, managed the whole CIA side of the rise of Palantir with Peter Thiel and In-Q-Tel and all of that shit. So that's who's in here with that company. This MI5 guy and Alan Wade, also Amber Rudd, the former, was a former cabinet minister in the Boris Johnson government involved with like counterterrorism stuff. You have the top, one of the top research guys at the Imperial College of London, and then some dude who calls himself the UK's answer to Bill Gates. That's who runs this company.
Yay!
Basically.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and what's crazy about them is that their AI thing, their AI cybersecurity system is unsupervised, meaning there's no people. They just created this AI thing and they let it run loose on your computer and it protects you. Okay, so what's crazy is that the Cambridge University mathematicians that developed this AI weren't trying to develop a cybersecurity program. They were trying to make the singularity. They were trying to make AI that has a sense of self. Okay.
I did read about that. Yeah. And I immediately fucking backburnered it to that corner of my brain where I never want to fucking think about shit. And then I went on with the rest of my life.
So the guy,
because it's one of those existential questions that's like AI, but with the sense of self, with the will. So
have these motherfuckers never watched Terminator?
Don't want to deal with.
Well, so back up a sec. So like these guys at Cambridge wanted to make the singularity, okay? And then they get in bed with this dude at the CIA who was in bed with the Maxwell family and like the head of the software for the US intelligence community on 9/11. Okay, they get in bed with that guy and the former director of MI5. That seems like a winning combination, and now they're marketing their software to Philadelphia, and the mainstream media is saying it's going to be ground zero and like the epicenter of all this stuff. I mean, it seems a little weird. Anyway, that's just one company. The other company that caught my attention is called, it's called Tenable, and the head of Tenable is a guy named Amit Yoran. And Amit Yoran used to be part of something called Guardium during 9/11 that was involved in, it was eventually bought by IBM, but it was run by Israeli intelligence guys, and it's tied up to this guy named Michael Goff. And Michael Goff, if you've ever looked into Christopher Berlin's research on 9/11, is the guy that wrote the PTEC software, which people like James Corbett refer to as the 9/11 software. After 9/11, Amit Yoran, by Michael Chertoff, gets appointed to be head of cybersecurity at DHS. Amit Yoran, by the way, is an Israeli citizen that studied at West Point, so he's not even American. So anyway, he was put in charge of cybersecurity at DHS. He wasn't there that long, but ended up leaving. He also used to be in charge of In-Q-Tel and a bunch of other stuff. So his company is the other one that's been selling all this stuff to Philadelphia and cities in the area and around the country, I guess, in the lead up to this claim that, Russia and Iran are going to hack these very systems that they're selling it to. And then you have Cybereason at these conferences as well, also supporting the people that predicted doom for the 2020 election. Definitely seems really, like I said, I broke my own brain.
Fucking nightmarish. Disgusting, vile, crooked. There's lots of adjectives you could use for that. But yeah, can I tell you real quick that it makes me very happy that you broke your own brain, because it's time to have
finally
balance brought to the equation. So this is like Christmas for me. It really is, without any of the family guilt or drunk uncles. It's fantastic.
Well, it's also interesting that you point out all the ties to Israeli intelligence as well, because honestly, the moment that the FBI press release or FBI press PSYOP came out that it was going to be Russia and Iran hacking into our elections, it's like, why Iran? Why not China? But then you realize the connections with Israeli intelligence and how ultimately they want to push us to war with Iran. So it's all crazy. You've already broken my brain, but yeah.
Yeah, well, they definitely want a war with Iran before January, they say anyway. I mean, at least Israeli officials spoke off the record to Business Insider, and some other people and some people at the EU spoke up about it, that Israel was pretty open, at least, in those circles, about wanting to get the U.S. embroiled in a confrontation with Iran before the next inauguration day, trying to initiate a conflict while Trump is still in the White House, so they say. I mean, Biden says that he'd reestablish the Iran nuclear deal, but I don't really believe that.
Yeah.
But
With Hillary Clinton saying they want to look at Iran as a business opportunity and Joe Biden wanting to, set the record straight and really play strongman against North Korea, I have no faith. He's a hopeless neocon, and if you're voting for him and you're anti-war, then you're not anti-war.
Right. Well, like all these, this narrative right now about who's going to be responsible for this hacking, they're trying to lump together all the countries they don't like. So that's why you've seen over the past couple months or so them warning about North Korean hacks and Iranian hacks, not mentioning that Israel has hacked Iran like 12 times this year and like blown up factories and grain silos and all this shit. Took down their half their internet for 2 days or something a couple months ago. No mention about that. The Iranian cyber threat. Anyway, and then you have Russia and China. So they're lumping them all in together. They're setting up this narrative too that the white supremacists in the US are going to be working with those state actors and maybe Al-Qaeda too. They're literally trying to make this clown world narrative where everyone they don't like is bad. That's why now we're also seeing everyone they don't like in alternative media they're claiming is QAnon. They're saying Off Guardian is QAnon as a way to justify deplatforming them.
Somebody hit me with that shit.
Yeah.
Me.
Yeah.
Do you know how much time I've spent making fun of and debunking
just shitting on QAnon
on the show?
PSYOP?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you saw that Washington Post article from a week or two ago, but they were saying everyone that that isn't all gung-ho about getting the COVID-19 vaccine from Operation Warp Speed is linked up with QAnon, basically.
You know what? It's so funny you say that too, because when I talk to people who have just decided that everything their particular TV station tells them is true, when I have these conversations, they're like, "Oh, well, you're just masquerading as someone who isn't QAnon, but you're QAnon," and it's that's not okay. If you can convince yourself that there are 72 genders, you need to stop having a binary approach when it comes to fucking politics. And everything I don't like is QAnon. If you can accept that there are 72 genders, you should be able to do this relatively easily, correct? And they're like, "No, I don't have it. It's not what my TV told me. My TV did not tell me this, so I can't think it."
Well, so what they're trying to do... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and in the spirit of believing science, I mean, you should really believe science and study the long-term effects of a vaccine produced in fuck all time that you don't know anything about. Can I be concerned? Even with normal vaccines, I at least want to know what the long-term effects is. Even if fucking Cuba makes a vaccine with their awesome medical system, I'd be like, let me see what the long-term effects are. Let me see how good it is in trial. What phase, did it go through all the phases? Because Russia had a vaccine that completely skipped phase 3 of testing. So it's I want to believe in science, but now we're making that political too because of partisan bullfuckery. So,
well, since 2009, the FDA has been creating a program that it calls PRISM that is basically all about how to monitor people and do the safety tests in people that get the vaccine after they allow it to be on the market. So they call it post-licensing surveillance for immunizations or something. I forget exactly what all the letters of the acronym stand for. Do you have any idea how many acronyms there are in the U.S. government? I mean, it's just it's madness. Way too many. So anyway, they've been planning to move into that way of managing vaccine safety since 2009. And they've never used that system. They've been building it this whole time. And Operation Warp Speed is pretty open that that's going to be the style they're doing, because they admit that all the vaccine technologies they're using in Operation Warp Speed are not vaccine technologies that have ever been used in any vaccine that's ever been licensed in U.S. history. So existing vaccines that people are, supposed to get in the U.S. or whatever, none of them use the technologies that these Warp Speed vaccines are using. They're all experimental and new and have never been licensed or brought to market before. So what they basically want to do is have everyone that gets the vaccine be the guinea pig and then see what happens to you after you get it, since there's not enough time for safety tests, or that's, what they're saying. So the whole Warp Speed thing, the justification is we have to get it fast, and that means skipping everything. But the plan to move, a safety testing to after the thing's already in the market, I mean, they've been setting that up since 2009. And it's not just the FDA, by the way, it's a public-private partnership. That whole PRISM thing is a public-private partnership. So it's the FDA with like Harvard and Amazon and Microsoft and, all our favorite pals from the corporate sector are there.
Robert Cadlick.
Yeah, fuck him.
Figures heavily in this shit, and it's just it floors me that like so few journalists have gone after this guy, because between him and Tara O'Toole and a couple other people that were around since the Dark Winter days, like it's like there's almost like some sort of like brick wall or force field that journalists run into rather than cover these individuals.
I don't know, though. Independent media doesn't have that excuse, and they've dropped the ball. Like, me and the people at T-Lab, we're the only people covering how shady Warp Speed is in independent media right now. We're the only ones. And, a lot of too many people in independent media are acting like this Trump versus Biden shit is anything more than political theater. And that it goes for people in independent media that spent the last 4 years saying the Democrats and the Republicans are bullshit and it's all bipartisan goo, right? And now all of a sudden it's election day, and I guess they think they can get more clicks or support their business model if they stay on the Trump versus Biden thing and are just ignoring all this huge shady shit that has been going on for months. It makes me mad.
In my honest opinion, it's because they know they're playing it safe, because they want to keep their channel, because they found a nice little niche in quote unquote independent media.
I know that's why.
Bullshit.
But they're gonna get taken down too.
Like, the whole reason you're here is because we want people to know this shit, and we want this to get out there. And I don't do a daily show where I cover news. I do a show usually once a week, unless you get a hold of me and you're like, hey, they took down Ryan, or hey, they're coming after Vanessa, and then I'll do a show like that day. But I give no fucks about the future of this channel. I got a job. Like, it's
YouTube's gonna come for everyone. If they think playing it safe is still talking about the OPCW scandal with Syria, they're gonna come for you anyway. I mean, maybe Ryan's channel got taken down first, but just wait until this bullshit goes down on the election. It's going to be it's going to ramp up so hard, guys. And even with the whole vaccine aspect, the government has pretty much said as soon as the vaccine is approved, literally anything that they deem as potentially promoting vaccine hesitancy, they are going to axe. So if you're saying anything other than, go out and get the jab, I mean, they're going to deplatform you. That's essentially what the Warp Speed official documents on their engagement strategy with the media is about. And Google, which owns YouTube, is part of Warp Speed. And so is Oracle, and so is Palantir. Okay? Like, they're not fucking around.
Hey,
so, I mean,
when you go to the FOIA reading room, because Glory sent me the link earlier this morning, like they've got a section on
released it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they've got a section on Warp Speed. I'll pull it up right now. And I don't know how to do the fucking share screen on Skype.
Don't worry about
Skype.
it. It's all fucking redacted.
But yeah, it is.
That's what I said.
Everything is fucking redacted.
It's like 4 contracts, and they're all redacted, especially fucking Moderna, which is like, of course, because like freaking what's his face, Moncef Slaoui is like a former board member there, and of course they're
on the board. I'm pretty sure
the most redacted one.
Yeah. I think he took his stock out of Moderna. He devet from Moderna, but I'm pretty sure he's still on the board of directors. He's also on the board of a company that was co-founded by Google and his former employer, GlaxoSmithKline. So, and it was ruled that he's actually allowed to continue investing in whatever biomedical pharmaceutical company he wants while heading Operation Warp Speed. Like, that's normal. Going back to Robert Cadlick for a second, though, I stumbled upon something super weird out of HHS that goes back to a decision that Robert Cadlick made. And basically, Robert Cadlick was behind this update to the PrEP Act, which basically they put out in, I think it was April, but it was coming from Cadlick's office. Alex Azar, he's nominally the head of HHS, signed off on it. And basically it gives complete immunity to anyone that creates the vaccine or administers it from being sued for damages that it may cause. I found this one document that's talking specifically about COVID-19 in the Latino community. They said that the COVID-19 medical countermeasures, you can't sue them under the Civil Rights Act. And it's only in documents that talk about the Latino community. So aren't those supposed to protect, the government from exploiting minorities? I think that's a little weird that they would make a vaccine immune from a, from the Civil Rights Act. And this is important because if you read like I've been doing, hopefully I'll have a report on this soon, the vaccine allocation guidance, who's going to get the vaccine first, they talk about prioritizing per warp speed, what they call critical populations. And by the way, the company they contracted to decide who a critical population is Palantir. And if you read through, there's examples of critical populations. It's the same racial minorities that Palantir already surveils and tracks through their contracts with ICE or police departments in the US. So that's a little sus. And this whole thing about it being, we're not liable under the Civil Rights Act for the COVID-19 vaccine, and it's not in their official documents about the update to the PrEP Act. It's only in the documents that are for people with limited English proficiency is where it pops up. I mean, that is like real shady. And Palantir, I mean, the guys that run that shit are weird. Alex Karp and Peter Thiel are like big weirdos. And, they have really weird views about minorities in general. Like Alex Karp last week there was this huge piece in the New York Times about Palantir that came out on the 21st of October, just like 4 days ago. And Alex Karp in there, who's the head of Palantir, says, I'm surprised I haven't been pushed out of a window yet. And he talks about how he's constantly afraid of different ethnic groups murdering him because he's Jewish. And I'm like, that's the guy in charge of Palantir? He's like constantly afraid he's going to be murdered by people that like aren't in his little ethnic group. And that's the mentality of the people that are gonna it's nuts. So yeah, independent media, step up your game because there's a lot of fucking stories I got to push out, and I'm one person.
You're echoing what we say here on this show and on the fucking Assange vigils for that matter. Like every single time we're on fucking camera, and most of the time that we're off too. The little niche the independent media has carved out for themselves is just barely outside the allowable limits of conversation that mainstream media has. And that can't...
It's mainstream media light. It's
MSNBC with occasional swear words. And it fucking sucks. And I'm tired of it. And I don't fucking... I don't watch anybody's fucking shit anymore except for like Burmis and fucking Ryan stuff and a couple other people. It's so fucking nonsense. It's just like you could literally watch porn and get a better fucking result from it because at least somebody would finish and at least somebody would fucking smile. Like it's bad. Dude.
Oh my god.
God damn it.
Right?
All right, dude.
You're welcome. Everyone watching right now, you're fucking welcome. That's how I fucking feel.
Metaphors.
Independent media depresses the shit out of me. It does. It's so fucking sad.
It's true though. Nothing is more depressing than watching people go like, yeah, we need a revolution. We need to take it to the streets. And then like 4 weeks later, they're going, so guys, we need to go and vote for Joe Biden. Make sure that your mail-in ballot is nice and sealed, nice and signed. No, I won't tell you that your ballot's probably going to get thrown away. No, I won't tell you about ES&S, which owns the election software in Broward County and Dade County. By the way, if you've ever voted in Broward County, the DS200, which is the voting machines, fucking ugliest voting machine I've ever seen in my goddamn life. It's like a literal garbage bin. So it's like subliminal messaging to tell you that your vote's getting thrown away. I digress. I'm sorry, I digress. But I had to say it. The DS200 is so ugly. Okay.
Well, here's the other thing, right? There's this software that I wrote about last year that was made by Microsoft and a contractor whose only client is DARPA in the Pentagon. And they got together and they made this thing called Election Guard, which was part of Microsoft's Defending Democracy program that also spawned NewsGuard, everyone's favorite fake news watchdog that's full of people that suck and led by a journalist who actually got called out by his own sources for literally making shit up and writing fake news. So, you know, good times. So what's awesome about Election Guard is that the current guy at DHS who's in charge of protecting election infrastructure and critical infrastructure is Chris Krebs. And Chris Krebs, before he was at CISA, that agency at DHS that does this, was executive vice president for Microsoft's relationship with the government. And he's been promoting Election Guard this whole time. So wouldn't it be crazy if something bad happened to the election infrastructure and then Chris Krebs was like, we should have had Election Guard this whole time. It's not like I'm still invested in my previous employer. You know, just another reason that that's the guy who's going to keep the U.S. from being hacked while DarkTrace, the DHS 9/11 dude, and Cyber Reason have all sold their software to these people. You know, and then the lady at the NSA who's in charge of all of cybersecurity for the NSA, Ann Neuberger, her husband Yehuda Neuberger is on AIPAC's board. So that's normal. And her parents were rescued and saved from certain death by Benjamin Netanyahu's brother. So I'm sure we can count on her to blame Iran for whatever.
Yeah.
So those are the people in charge of protecting the infrastructure. If that's not Fox guarding the hen house type stuff, when they're already saying they're going to blame Iran, you know, like squint your eyes a little bit, think about it, you know.
We reported on the Election Guard stuff here on this show, and to my knowledge, like it was like this show and maybe one or two others total in the entire fucking media sphere that even picked up on it.
Well, that's like when I wrote about how Bill Barr announced that they're going to do predictive policing nationwide and they're going to roll it out in 2020, which they're about to do now. They've been testing it out in Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, a few other cities since they announced it. It was literally only the Ron Paul Liberty Report covered it after I published that. And I think, you know, you guys, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. I even think we had you on for that because it fucking freaked me out so much. I don't know. You've been on the show a lot. Well, it's hard to remember what we talked about. And I experience every show in a blackout. Or a sort of blackout, where if you ask me like 10 minutes after we are off camera what we talked about, I'd be like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to go watch again.
Honestly, it's easier that way to like.
Oh, it's so nice. Delete
a little bit after you put the info out. You know, you can't have it there sitting all the time.
The predictive policing thing is fucking insane, though. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, they're getting ready to roll it out, and you know who piloted that before Bill Barr's announcement? It was piloted in New Orleans by Palantir. Palantir is the predictive policing software. Then they got in trouble because the NOLA Police Department was using it for super racist stuff, and so Palantir ended the program. And then you know who New Orleans partners with? Another company that Peter Thiel of Palantir funds that was also funded by Jeffrey Epstein and Ehud Barak, Carbine 911, which is also basically the same. It's used for predictive policing as well, but it's the 911 call system. They're also going to hack that in November, by the way, the 911 call system. And they're going to say, we need Carbine 911 because, you know, earlier this year, New Orleans was attacked by a nasty cyber attack. And you know, the one system that didn't get hacked? The 911 system run by Carbine 911. Wow, clownish. And then the advisory board of Carbine 911, Michael Chertoff, who's also part of the Transition Integrity Project, Clearly, his mom was in Mossad. Totally normal to have him there. Former head of DHS. You also have Christian Nielsen, Trump's former DHS head. Right. You have the former the Boston head of Boston PD when the Boston Marathon bombing happened, who's also an advisor to Cybereason. That's normal. And a bunch of other people. Former head of LAPD. You have the former director of FEMA who worked under Chertoff what was that, like during the Bush administration? And then the other one is the former head of intelligence for the FBI. That's who's the advisors to Carbine 911. They took out all the people related to Epstein after the Epstein scandal. They even took Ehud Barak, used to be director and chairman of the board of Carbine 911. They let him go, especially when it came out that he, was accused of raping kids. I just can't even handle this anymore. Like, dude, do you people not see what's happening? We're talking about Trump versus Biden. I mean, have people not noticed that neither Trump or Biden, that it seems like neither of them care about winning this time? I mean, I've heard people mention that on and off. Yeah, they don't care about winning because they know it doesn't matter. Like, maybe we should get that memo.
Well, and then you've got people like Kamala Harris, who we know would be the actual quote unquote president. If Biden wins, I don't think he makes it to the actual inauguration day, before he has a terminal accident or illness or something like that. And Harris
I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris, when she was top cop or whatever, brought in Palantir to do predictive policing shit there too.
Yeah, she did.
I have to look that up. Mm-hmm.
She's nothing more than a dead-eyed, soulless servant of power, and she knows, like, that the presidential seat is symbolic, and that she's there to serve the real people in charge. She knows that, and she wants that position, so she's happy about all of this. But Biden's not. Trump is like phoning it in. There's half the energy or less than what he had in 2016 when he thought he was, maybe actually going to be a president, or at least get his own news network out of the deal. And now it's just everything has accelerated so much, and it's so shitty globally that I wouldn't want that job. You couldn't pay me enough to do that job. No fucking way.
Well, and Kamala Harris herself has been praised by multiple Russiagators and spooks as being, I think Louis Mensch specifically was one of them, as being like the leader of the national security left, whatever the flying fuck that is. But it fucking terrifies me.
The fuck is that?
Sure. If you have
the national security left, that's fun. Yeah. So you mean the people that were in the national security state under Obama, I guess, then.
But that just so happened to be liberals. She happens to be like, half Jamaican, so we can chuck her in the left, which
you brought up national security, just the word, and I remembered something about Cybereason. The guy for Cybereason that did their doomsday simulations, their chief security officer, is part of something called the National Security Institute. You know who else is there? Paul fucking Wolfowitz. And Keith Alexander, former NSA director who just joined Amazon, is there. Michael Hayden, former head of the CIA and the NSA, is there. Yeah. So not only is the guy that did the simulations for Cybereason there, the guy Cybereason hired in July, a former Booz Allen Hamilton guy, to run Cybereason's efforts to get their software all installed on the public sector, i.e. government computers in the U.S. He's also at the National Security Institute. So, PNAC neocons. And then you have the guys that were basically tied up with the software side of 9/11 doing all this stuff in Philadelphia right now. Dude.
And yet when you bring this up, because there's no whisper of it in regular media or 99% of independent media, people look at you like you've got fucking 8 heads and you don't know what
this year, dude.
like I don't know what I'm talking about.
I liked your Epstein series, but I think you have lost it this time. I'm just like,
Well, because people were totally willing to believe that Jeffrey Epstein was what everyone had been saying about him. So it was easier to make that connection. But when you start talking about this shit, it's so far out of people's scope, most people at least, that they fucking tune out, or their immediate reaction is to recoil and be like, that's fake news because it hurts my feelings and I can't fucking, it doesn't conform to what my preconceived notions are, and it doesn't hit my confirmation bias buttons, and I'm gonna just you're a bad person.
Steve, you sound like a conspiracy theorist right now. This is very leftist QAnon of you.
Right. Yeah. Ugh.
Leftist QAnon. So that's a fun one. But literally, QAnon was created to be a straw man, to literally blame everyone they don't like, label everyone they don't like as QAnon, and then they're just like, well, we got to deplatform QAnon, and if we're seeing it now, slapping the QAnon label on anything they don't like.
Did they hit that with Derek Brose when they yanked him yesterday?
I don't think he really got an explanation of specifically why he was, taken down. I mean, Ryan didn't. Ryan didn't even get an email about his channel being taken down.
I got to get Derek on the show. I keep on meaning to email him, and I fucking run out of hours in the day.
Yeah, he's pretty busy setting stuff up in Mexico. He moved there not that long ago, so he's been kind of hard to get a hold of. But
yeah.
Well, I'll give it to QAnon. They're a good ass psyop. I mean, not only can you just peg everyone you don't like with like, oh, that's QAnon, but you're also sheep herding a lot of people on the right into doing nothing but trusting the plan. Because I found this when I've talked to so many Q people. It's like we can agree that the national security state and the deep state and Israeli intelligence and the CIA and FBI and all that, we can agree that all of those guys are bad and that we need to fight them. But then it's like, okay, so come fight them with me. And then it's like, no, we got to trust the plan. Trust the plan. Trump's second term, he's got this. The Q messaging board told me so. It's like, oh my fucking God.
You know who was the architect of QAnon? It was Cass Sunstein, Samantha Power's husband. He was an advisor to Obama. He's the guy that came up with this whole thing of infiltrating conspiracy movements or creating conspiracy movements that get people to trust and love the government, as opposed to not trust and not like the government like conspiracies normally do. That was Cass Sunstein. You know where Cass Sunstein is now? He's on the advisory board to the World Health Organization fighting vaccine hesitancy. Oh, the same organization that's now saying if you're QAnon, all people that don't want the vaccine are QAnon. Oh, that's interesting how that little connection there. Seriously.
I feel like there's gray matter leaking out of my ears at this point.
I literally put something similar in chat.
Fuck.
Well, I should be putting out articles about this, so I'm not just like rambling and being like, what the fuck, and people can like go find the sources and draw their own conclusions. But, I got like a week before the election. I'm one person, right? I'm kind of at the point where I just need to be like, you guys. Yeah.
It's getting harder and harder to not start every sentence with "you dumb fucks." Like, it really is, man. And I don't mean that for the people who are watching this show, because I have the smartest and best looking audience in independent media. But I'm talking about the people that don't watch this show. Like, it really is just the amount of times a day, and this is why I microdose mushrooms, so that I don't do this. The amount of times a day that I just want to shake a motherfucker just for like being, oh, dude, and you can't do that. You can't. No. Like, I don't want to catch a charge. I'm 42. Jail's uncomfortable.
My usage of the word bootlicker has gone up by about like 632% in the past couple months.
That's
here.
That's a really specific statistic. I like that.
I made it up as I go. I've just been saying it a lot, and especially when you have fucking government officials like AOC and them just literally cheering on censorship. Like,
yeah, can we talk about AOC for a second? So apparently it's all great how she is encouraging the vote because she goes on Twitch and plays a video game, and then Mother Jones calls that shit the future of left politics. Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
Do you not see how dumbed down U.S. politics has become? Holy crap. I mean, Trump was the first one that really showed us what it is. I mean, clearly reality show. So now the reality game show host is freaking president. But like, they're all that, right? AOC and Ilhan Omar, Pelosi, Trump, Biden, Kamala, whatever. I mean, they're all like essentially at this point court jesters that they push out in front of the people and be like, look, they're like you. They, you know, like Kamala Harris, she wears Converse. So like, she's like you, like when in the 90s, when people wore those shoes, you know, and they're just basically like pulling out all this crap, and people are still eating it up. And that's why I'm so pissed off at people in independent media who know better. And I know they know better. And they're just like, you know, it was safe when I talked about, you know, I like, you know, did the counter narrative of the U.S. government line on, I don't know, Syria or any, you know, Bolivia or whatever, you know, I mean, that's safe, right? For these people. And now with all this shit that's gone down with COVID, you know, they don't want to talk about this global fascist Orwellian panopticon that they're trying to build. That's not just in the US. I mean, they're doing this globally, right? So they, you know, I mean, they're avoiding, like, honestly, some of the biggest issues going on in the country right now and trying to act like they're still being contrary and covering this shit. And I am like so over it. Like, grow some balls. Do you not see what's happening to the country, and you're caring about your business model? They're going to take you off Patreon. They're going to take you off PayPal. They're going to take you off YouTube. And if you don't speak up now, it's going to be worse. And it pisses me off that there's people with big platforms that know that there is some shit going down, and they are not saying shit. I'm not going to name names because I'm not trying to be one of those divisive people. But I think it's time, you know, like a lot of people before on Twitter would like bother personalities about, oh, you're not covering this or covering that. I mean, we need to just be like a lot more aggressive about that, but other shit, you know, I mean, if people are still covering this Trump versus Biden, you know, they know it's not, that it's more like, they clearly know that it's, you know, just political theater, and they're still covering it and acting like it's not. I mean, I don't know. Like, how many videos are you going to do on Nancy Pelosi when shit is literally about to be on fucking fire?
Dude,
you know?
I have the same fucking grievances
You've known for years that Nancy Pelosi is retarded and that she's like melting, and she like can't, her brain has like been broken for years, not unlike Joe Biden. So like, I don't know. Now is not the time to be spending your platform and your time talking about, you know, her or AOC.
Well, and because a lot of these people have the resources to be able to cover this stuff. They can hire research. They can get their equipment and go on the fucking ground. Cenk Uygur is a fucking millionaire, okay? We like the amount of times
where a fat turd. Fuck him.
Yeah, fuck him, fuck Anna, and fuck Emma, and fuck whatever the other white dude is that always makes me fall asleep. Like, fuck all of TYT, because they are fucking millionaires. They can, listen, I'm in LA. You can hire me as a researcher to research the shit for you. Also, I'm in LA. We need your ass on the ground covering this shit, and you won't lift a fucking finger. And it pisses me off when people do that, because it's like, and it's like, I know I'm going to apply like the biased age lens here, but like, listen, I'm 20 and managing to pay attention to this shit while in school and work. You can do it as a grown ass fucking millionaire.
I'm a single mom of a toddler.
Yes.
I do what I do. I mean, these people have no fucking excuse, except they're cowards and they're too comfortable, and they don't realize how real shit is going to get in the U.S. in a couple months. They are clearly engineering the controlled demolition, not just of the economy, but of the social fabric of the freaking country. They're trying to engineer like a civil war, essentially, in the U.S. This whole, the Governor Whitmer plot, right? That has got like all the MSNBC liberals in a tizzy. It came out that the FBI informant was the ringleader, and he was paid 24 grand to set up a fake terror plot. Do you not see that the same stuff they did to Muslim Americans to entrap them to gin up the war on terror abroad, they are now doing for domestic terror here, and the FBI is paying for it. And that shit came out right after the FBI leaked its own report saying, get ready, more domestic extremist violence before the election. And now it's like every day they'll have some other story.
I swear to God. The moment that broke, a couple of people that like don't necessarily watch the show, but know who I am and know what I talk about, got a hold of me, and they're like, what do you think now? You know? And I'm like, I think the FBI did exactly what the FBI set out to do, which the FBI frequently does. And if you paid attention at all over the last fucking, however many years of your life, and then read about the fucking 60s, you would have seen this coming a mile a fucking way, and it wouldn't surprise you at all. But your brain has worms now.
Well, I mean, you watched Governor Whitmer give the statement, her response to that plot being made public. She is smiling the whole time. The woman is giddy. If you're talking about, I was almost kidnapped and maybe could have been murdered, and you're up there being like, yes. Like that. There's something weird about that shit. I'm just going to be real with you.
Well, and it's like the solutions to these things are always like, we need to counter this domestic terrorism by beefing up the FBI, giving more money to the
police.
It's like, it's like, where do you think white supremacists are right now? The most dangerous white supremacists aren't like, Billy Bob yelling out on the street. It's the fucking dude sitting in the FBI and the CIA and the DHS. And like, if you look into all these people, their fucking counterterrorism plans are so like fucking scarring and terrifying. Like Pete Buttigieg wanted to give fucking $1 billion to the DHS and the FBI. Hell fucking no. Nah, it's just
so let's go back a couple
history too.
Well, let's go back a couple months to when there were all the Black Lives Matters protests and the calls for police reform a few months ago. I know it seems like ancient history, right? But we got to go back there for a second. So what was weird is that not only did you have people on the right when those riots, protests, whatever were going on, calling for the federalization of police, but you had establishment DNC types on the left and other think tanky types on the left saying the way to reform police departments is to federalize police. Isn't it weird that a super contentious partisan divide issue that everyone says is pulling the social fabric apart, both sides want the same solution, federalizing police? That shit screams of PSYOP. They want one solution and they're, creating a situation and then thinking both sides have some novel solution. It's the same solution, right? So, I mean, they're going to push for that shit, too.
At this point, we need to remember our George Carlin in that bipartisan means that a larger than normal deception is taking place.
Right. But so here's the thing. They need another shoe to drop in order to push through a lot of these new systems they want. That includes federalization of police, and a lot of other things that they're trying to push through right now. So, for example, you have things like Carbine 911. They basically said, the 911 call system is going to be hacked by foreign hackers. You have Carbine 911 ready to come into the rescue. You have these cybersecurity firms like DarkTrace, which is the CIA and MI5, right? And then you have like Cyber Reason that will come in to, protect whatever else. But you also have special things for law enforcement. And one of those is called Mark 43. It's backed by Jeff Bezos of Amazon, Ashton Kutcher, the douchey actor who is basically does shit for the CIA. I wrote about this with his whole charity, Thorn. But it's also the main backer is David Petraeus, the former CIA director who used to be on the payroll of the Kagan neocon family. So they're basically pushing to digitize police stuff to make things more efficient. And, all they need is a good crisis where, we need to give new tools to law enforcement. And they have all these companies it's the same shit that happened with 9/11. You had all these companies know what was going to happen, that there was going to be some event that resulted in the creation of the Department for Homeland Security, DHS, which before it became DHS, it was called the National Homeland Security Agency is what they were going to call it. But all these companies, why all these people with ties to 9/11 popped up that were to fill those niches after, DHS and that whole pivot to Homeland Security was assured by 9/11. And a lot of those same people now have those same companies set up just waiting for the right crisis. And we have all these warnings about cyber attacks by all the baddies, all the people that hate us for our freedom. Let me tell you something, though. This thing they're going to do on the election, I don't know if it's all going to be election day, but it's going to start on election day. And what they're going to frame it as is this is an attack on the institution of democracy. They're not going to say this is an attack on the homeland. You may have already seen this in mainstream media. They've been setting this up for a long time. I mean, I've been writing about this for over a year now. It's going to be attack on the institution of democracy. And that's why I think it's very this whole thing about Philadelphia makes a lot of sense, because it's the birthplace of U.S. democracy. So you want to launch a big attack on the institution of democracy itself? What better place than where it was born and has the Liberty Bell? Mainstream media, if there's like some big 9/11 style thing that goes down in Philadelphia, they will milk that hard. And all the people they've set up to take the fall, for these cyber attacks or whatever it is, they'll just be like, they're authoritarian and they hate our democracy. And that's why they attacked us, because they hate democracy so much, even though Iran has elections, Russia has elections, even China has elections. Like, come on, it's not any more authoritarian than the U.S. is at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
No, but it's a grand symbol. And they do love their symbol.
To appeal in all that narrative I just laid out is all about talking to the collective American psyche, right? So, oh no, our democracy's been attacked by a foreign power. It's not like our democracy's been undermined forever thanks to the CIA controlling both parties and all of this shit, right? Or the Israel lobby, basically having a huge foothold in both parties and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that, right? We're going to talk about, oh, look, this foreign power has attacked our democracy. It's the 2020 version of they hate us for our freedom in 2001.
Well, and that allowed us to go to war against an idea. And war against an idea is forever.
Hey, well, we're in a war right now, a war against a microbe that can be anywhere in the environment. And that's why they're justifying all this stuff, like we need AI to surveil the entire environment. The Pentagon just announced, among their numerous AI crap going on this year, that they're going to surveil the entire U.S. countryside to prevent wildfires with AI. Okay, if you think that's to stop wildfires, you're high.
It's to root out like me and fucking my friend Ben Balderson up on fucking Murder Mountain and shit like that. I mean, he posed it to me and look, man, I've lived here long enough to know that wildfires do occur naturally, but what I've been seeing over the last several years does not appear to be natural or normal to me. And my friend's theory is that it's to make sure that they clear out all of the people who would normally be self-sufficient and try to live, sustainably and a little bit, peacefully. It's a
little more than that, though, in California, I think, because if you have to remember the fact, too, most of the country's food that isn't like corn for beef, like the fruits and vegetables people eat that isn't imported, is from California.
Yeah, so, a quarter of the U.S.'s food supply comes from the inland empire, they call it, or like the agricultural belt of California. And but that's not where the fires are taking place. They're all taking place, or mostly taking place up north. They're mostly taking place pockets.
There's a couple in the south. There was the Bobcat fire, which was like a bit northeast of Pasadena.
Yeah, but the overall 400 million acres or something like that have burned just this year alone. Most of that is taking place in California's Trump country. Where people have been for generations living off grid and sustainably, and they're trying to push everyone into large cities and to large metropolitan areas, which will then be immediately fucking locked down. And if you want to get out, you have to have your immunity passport, and it's fucking.
They're rolling that out, by the way, the immunity passport, the Common Pass, it's called. They're piloting it right now in UK and US airports. So that's coming. That'll be fun.
Vanessa sent me that article, and she was like, "Do you remember back in February when they told us that we were crazy for suggesting that this was going to happen?"
I tweeted that. Yeah. Backed by the World Economic Forum and the Rockefeller Foundation and the guy before, I forget it. He used to be a Clinton speechwriter. He was involved for the International Rescue Committee, who, I've talked about before because they're very shady and have been tied to a lot of sex abuse of refugee scandals, the refugees they're supposed to protect. Things like that. They have Henry Kissinger and Madeleine Albright on their board. It's run by Timothy Geithner, who's now at Warburg Pincus, but he used to be Secretary of the Treasury under Obama. Those are the people running the refugee thing that this guy was a part of. He set up the internet and tech systems for them. And now he's setting up Common Pass with Rockefeller money. That's normal. 2 years ago, 2 years before COVID, how fortuitous. How convenient for him. It's not like he could have known anything in advance.
You're on top of your snark game today, Whitney.
I know. I'm at the point where I'm just like, all these fuckers, I want to launch them into the sun and throw them into the fires of Mount Doom. I don't even care anymore.
I've lost track of how many times you've said "so that's normal" during the broadcast, but if you're playing along at home, let me know, and because each and every time that's a sure telltale sign that something is very, very, very wrong.
Yes.
Right.
No, can I tell you though? There's a lot of people that have just ran flat the fuck out of fucks, like no more, but zero fucks to be had.
Yeah, I ran out of fucks last year. I've been skidding fuckless for a while.
Zero fucks Vanessa Beeley is one of the funniest fucking things on the planet. It really is, dude. Like her hilarity value has just gone through the fucking roof over the last month.
What can I say? Yeah.
Fucking awesome.
I wish Chloe's account wasn't private. Like, I wish she could actually face the fire on Twitter and not make her account.
No, these people are cowards.
I know.
That's what people have to remember, by the way, especially since we're about to enter the most unstable, crazy part of 2020. These assholes are scared of us. They're scared of us.
Yes.
So remember that. Don't be scared of them. They are scared of us. Please don't forget that.
It should be. There are so many more of us. And dude, I mean, fuck, man. The amount of people that I know personally that are ex-military who get it, like really get it, and still talk to people who are enlisted. There's a growing awareness even within the 18 to 24-year-olds who are in the military, who go to have their fucking identity stripped and then be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, and all the fucking propaganda that you get fed while you're in boot camp or while you're in the early stages of your first deployment. Like, all of that is just running on fucking fumes. Like, they've lost the plot in so many ways.
The Pentagon knows that, and that's why they're making this push to AI and robots and transhumanist soldiers. And a lot of people haven't paid attention to that because it sounds crazy. The Pentagon's own documents, they admit that all their modernization stuff started in mid-September with something called Project Convergence that no one covered. I didn't have time to cover it because guess all the other crap I have to cover because most of independent media is asleep at the freaking wheel. So basically the Pentagon said, yeah, next year we're going to use AI to decide who lives and who dies. Remember Project Maven and how there was that backlash over it? And they were like, oh, we can't do that. Well, the dude that came up with Project Maven is Eric Schmidt's best friend, and they're both running the National Security Commission on AI that, has essentially created this whole modernization policy for the national security state. It's Eric Schmidt and Bob Work, who's the Project Maven guy. And, it's all of the big companies at Silicon Valley. You have Safra Katz from Oracle, who's all tied up with Sheldon Adelson and the Israel lobby too. You have Amazon, you have Microsoft, you have another guy from Google. You have the first and current heads of NQTEL. You have the former number 2 guy of the intelligence community who used to work for Tara O'Toole at the UPMC Center for Biosecurity. You have a former Lockheed Martin executive. I mean, it is just like, these are the people that are deciding what's going on, and no one is covering it. No one's covering it because we're all like, oh, Trump and Biden. While the Silicon Valley oligarchs that are funding Biden, and also a lot of them fund Trump too, like Steve Schwartzman of Blackstone Capital, a big part of this whole AI push, and he gave Trump $3 million, you know? Mm-hmm. Trump is playing a role here, you know? I mean, this is just, it's theater to keep us from paying attention to what's really going on. And they're trying to like make all this AI stuff, you know, go live and automate everything. They know that people in the military are going to be like, whoa, when this stuff really hits the fan. And that there's a reason why Operation Warp Speed is super secret and 100% pretty much led by the military or former DARPA people. You know,
yeah, there's a quote in your article about it.
Redacted.
There's a quote in your article about it, saying, like, even from the people who are just part of the regular mainstream, saying that Op Warp Speed looks more like a military operation,
That's
not nothing.
Media. Yeah, that's from mainstream media. It looks more like a military operation than a science project. That's what mainstream media is saying. That's how bad it is. That's how blatant it is. It's nuts.
Well,
I haven't even gotten to write about this guy yet with Warp Speed, but the vaccine coordinator for Operation Warp Speed is Matt Hepburn, who used to be a program manager at DARPA. And when you should listen to his TED Talks. They're online. He talks about injecting people, genetically modifying people with chimp and mouse DNA, because it'll make people capable of tolerating higher pathogen burdens. Because, like, you know, the ratio of like number of pathogens to your body size, a human can have versus a mouse can have. Mice and chimps apparently can tolerate a lot more virus particles per, you know, part of their body compared to humans. So the answer to prevent disease is to, you know, inject people with chimp and mice DNA. That's the guy at DARPA talking, you know, running this vaccine thing, you know, and like the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine uses like a chimpanzee adenovirus vector, and that, you know, whole vaccine crowd that developed that, the Oxford University people are super shady. Adrian Hill and Sarah Gilbert, they are really shady. Actually, like 5 years ago, Adrian Hill, who made that vaccine, spoke at the UK Eugenics Society that was only renamed the Galton Institute in 1989. You know, that eugenics
everything's
institute,
fine.
That eugenics institute has been around since the beginning of the 20th century. Winston Churchill used to be a part of it, and all these like big name dudes. It's really nuts. Margaret Sanger was there too, the Planned Parenthood lady. Yeah, so they're still around, but the guy, this Adrian Hill guy, studied under this guy named David Weatherall, who is also involved who's also spoken at the Galton Institute and all of this stuff. The former president of the Galton Institute also involved. His name is Walter Bodmer. He's also the guy that came up with the Human Genome Project. So a lot of this gene editing stuff that they're rolling out right now, including those that are funded by Gates, like George Church. I mean, he was openly accused by even U.S. mainstream media of being a eugenicist. So a lot of these gene editing people are eugenicists masquerading as scientists, right? And we saw that with Epstein too, right? He was cozying up to a bunch of gene editing guys and was all into transhumanism and gene editing and eugenics. He straight up said it. He was all cozy with Bill Gates. Bill Gates' former science advisor was the backup executor of Epstein's frickin' will. And we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, that's normal. You know, just the billionaire pedophile with ties to intelligence, and he's a eugenicist, and, you know, Bill Gates is hanging out with him. Reid Hoffman of LinkedIn, Biden's biggest donor, this cycle, also cozy with Epstein. Jeff Bezos. Ghislaine Maxwell used to brag about her close friendship with Jeff. Right on the eve of the 2016 election, 2 Americans were meeting in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Jeffrey Epstein and Jeff Bezos. And we're just supposed to be like, Trump versus Biden is the only news. And Biden said this, and then Trump said this, and
AOC played a video game. Woo!
While we're here though, Josh, do you have that clip of Biden dropping the dark winter on the debate stage.
Yeah, you guys should be able to hear it. Hold on.
Okay.
Vice President Biden, your reaction, and just 40% of Americans say they would definitely agree to take a coronavirus vaccine.
Damn.
It was approved by the government. What steps would you take to give Americans confidence in a vaccine if it were approved?
Make sure it's totally transparent. Have the scientists of the world see it.
I see it on the YouTube.
Well, I pulled it up on YouTube so I can hear it. I'm just watching the stream itself.
Easter last time.
Me too.
The same fellow who told you that, don't worry, we're going to end this by the summer. We're about to go into a dark winter. A dark winter. He has no clear plan, and there's no prospect that there's going to be a vaccine available for the majority of the American people before the middle of next year.
President Trump, your reaction, he says you have no plan.
I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We've learned and studied and understand the disease, which we didn't at the beginning. When I closed and banned China.
All right, they're past the dark winter part.
But he says it
twice.
You gotta say it twice so it sinks in.
He's like, we're heading towards a dark winter. Oh, they didn't hear me? A dark winter.
Cartoon.
Oh, hey, Whitney, Burmis is in the chat saying not to push your buttons, but did you see the wacky plot about the 19-year-old who was supposedly going to take out Biden?
Yeah, I saw a picture of the kid's face, and I kind of was like, oh, that smells like FBI entrapment to me, but I didn't read about it, so I haven't looked into it. But there was also, like, the crazy lady that sent Trump the ricin letter a couple weeks ago, and that sort of like faded into the background. I don't know. Is there something there that I should know about the 19?
I think Burmis is just trying to get us all to explode our heads on camera because, you know.
Damn it, Burmis!
Because he's a friend, and that's what friends do.
They explode your brain, right? Okay.
That's fucking nuts. Well, shit. We've been going for about an hour and 20 minutes, and I would like to end strong here. Are there a couple of things that you would like to make unequivocally clear to the audience right now, aside from where they can find and stay current with your work?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to repeat again. People really need, out of all of 2020, we're about to enter the craziest part of the year. What has been going on since March is the warm-up for what's coming next month and the month after. And what I said earlier is really important for people to keep in mind. A lot of this is like mind game shit. So these people are afraid of you. You should not be afraid of them. We have the power. There's a reason they are censoring people like me and Ryan and Derek. It's because they're scared of our voices. They're scared of people listening to us, right? So it's important to remember, you know, as dark as things can look in the coming months, they are doing this to try and force people to consent to this new system, this great reset system. Your consent matters. Do not consent, and don't be afraid of these people.
Yeah, and real quick, man, because this did just come out like 2 days ago on the cover of Time magazine. It's
the Great Reset.
Yeah, the Great Reset is on the cover of Time magazine.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's late now. I mean, they're doing a marketing push for it, and they're trying to get everyone on board that, you know, like all the people that were, you know, about climate change or sustainable, whatever, they're trying to like be like, it'll be more sustainable this way if we change our systems. And they're trying to wrap up all of the narratives they've been trying to sell in past years into one thing that's now the Great Reset. And this is why I'm saying what we're going to see, the period we're entering now is like 9/11 on a massive global scale, but it's not going to be a controlled demolition of buildings. It's a controlled demolition of our society, of our economy, of the social fabric of the country. You know, they're going to try and blow, you know, take it down and then build something back up in its place. And the only way they can get away with that is if people don't really know what they're doing and can't see that they've been planning this for years and that there's a particular way they want this to go. Honestly, in my opinion, one of the best ways to derail that is to be able to tell people around you who aren't really wise to this stuff what's going to happen before it happens. These people are predictable. they follow the same playbook that they followed really in 2001. So they're going to have this thing go down on election day that's going to be like the next 9/11. They're going to call it that probably. 11/3, the new 9/11, okay? And then they're going to do what they did in 2001. A couple weeks later, they're going to have some sort of bioterror or whatever, like the anthrax attacks in 2001. That's what the dark winter is. And I've been talking about that on Ryan's show and whatever. And, you know, I have receipts on this stuff. I'm not just like talking out of my ass being like, this will happen and blah, blah, blah. You know, I mean, go read my Cyber Reason series. It's pretty clear, you know, when intelligence does stuff like this, they're telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when it does happen, they can be like, but we told you, why are you surprised?
Right. Well, you know, a lot of their warnings, they tell you the quote unquote solution, and it's exactly what they've wanted this whole time. And what they're trying to usher in now is, you know, what they tried to do after 9/11, like total information awareness, that whole program. By the way, Alan Wade, who I was talking about earlier, he was the CIA head of the CIA aspect of total information awareness. And here he is now, back in election 2020 with his company DarkTrace in bed with UK intelligence. Just really nuts. But, you know, this total information awareness thing, what it wanted to do after 9/11, you know, the ACLU and mainstream media essentially shut it down with public outrage. But those organizations aren't complaining about what they're doing now. It's just like people like us, right? So they're expecting, you know, I think they learned from their failure. I said this I think I said this on Burmes's show. You know, they've been spending this whole time since like the post 9/11, those couple years after 9/11, learning from their failures, what they wanted to take farther but couldn't get away with taking farther, especially when there started to be pushback about the invasion of Iraq and all of this stuff, and we were lied into war and all that, right? And a big problem for them was the media and organizations that were actually advocating on behalf of American interests. And so they have spent the past like 2 decades tearing all that shit down or infiltrating it or compromising it in some way. So, you know, that's why it's different now. But a lot of the stuff they're pushing for as quote unquote solutions to either coronavirus or the situation they're going to create here in a little bit, or also domestic extremism, they all have the same solution per the government, and that is complete and total surveillance. In a way that most people thought was impossible before, and they're going to enable it all with technology. And they don't even want to have people surveilling you. They want artificial intelligence that's unsupervised machine learning, you know, managing all this stuff. And Palantir is really building that in the US. And it's no coincidence they're also really involved in what's going on in the UK right now, too. And then you have this company like DarkTrace, that's the CIA in MI5, you know, in here too. I think it's really likely that, you know, whatever's going to happen in the U.S. in November, I think the UK is probably going to get hit with something too that's similar, that's going to justify what they've been building to replace the NHS, which they call NHSX, which is going to be the new AI healthcare system of the United Kingdom that they've been building all this time with a lot of the same people and companies that are involved on the U.S. side of this, right? So
yeah.
There's just so much going on right now. And I just, you know, I'm just so disappointed in independent media. I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought people learned after 2016. That was silly.
No.
That was silly.
No.
Clearly not.
Yeah. So
there are people in independent media right now with massive platforms where they've got 5,000 regularly on their live streams, or 10,000 or 15,000 regularly, who have positioned themselves as like the only voice of truth in independent media. And
press thinker.
It kills me when I do stumble by those shows, because sometimes you do slow down and look when, you know, there's a semi that overturned and there's like 3 motorcycles involved, and, you know, I mean, if it's a substantial wreck on the freeway, you rubberneck at that shit. So I will occasionally wander over to those shows just to see what they're doing, and it's so fucking maddening because they do know better, and most of these people have spoken to you, Whitney. Like at least once.
I know.
Twice.
Look, I'm not going to name names, but I was supposed to have an interview on last Monday, and then I got a message from the person. I'm not going to say their name, but it's a big channel with like tons of subs, more subs than Ryan's channel that was taken off of YouTube, right? I mean, I'm talking about a big person. They canceled on me because they thought having me on the show would get them deplatformed from YouTube, and so they can't have me on. Even though they have channels other places, they could have put it up on like Rockfin or whatever.
Yeah.
And just not put it up on YouTube. They were like, sorry.
Yeah, fuck them.
Can't have you on. You're, too conspiratorial for us. Even though I literally was just going to go talk about a report where like everything I said was source documented, whatever.
Can you stick around for 2 seconds when we're off the air and I'll guess the channel and you can tell me if I'm correct?
Yeah, I'll tell you. Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Well, people?
I don't want to shit on anyone in independent media by name, because like there's a tendency, look, what I'm talking about, the problem I'm talking about, drama and infighting in between media personalities is going to make that same problem I'm trying to, bring attention to worse. So I don't want to get into like drama shit with people. Been there, done that. I'm not into it.
Yeah, no, that's why we're not doing it on the air. But I have a couple of guesses.
Yeah.
At any rate.
But my point is, cowardice is becoming a problem in independent media. And if you are a person, that's watching this, it's time to hold their feet to the freaking fire. There's a week-ish before the election. There is not time. After the election, the censorship is going to be so brutal. It is going to make the past week look like nothing. They're going to take channel after channel down. They're going to take account after account off of Twitter. They've already said this. They're going to have some foreign interference, foreign meddling crisis with the election. And then everyone that's a Russian bot is going to be kicked off of Twitter. DHS, and there's Trump's DHS, by the way, in their first ever Homeland Threat Assessment report that they decided to release in 2020 for the first time ever, even though DHS has been around since 2003. They're going to wait like 17 years to have their first one ever right before everything hits the fan. Makes total sense. Anyway, in that document, they say examples of Russian disinformation online include anything that denigrates Joe Biden or denigrates the establishment. Okay, so that's like set at least like well over half of all Americans on social media that are going to get the boot. You've said something bad about Biden, time for you to go. And that's written by Trump's DHS. Do you see how transparent this political theater bullshit is? Where was the pro-Trump media being like, Trump's DHS person told Twitter they can deplatform us all as Russian disinfo assets because we said bad things about Biden, Trump's opponent? I mean, come on, people. And you can't say anything bad about the establishment or you're a Russian bot. I mean, clearly they're just trying to, create a huge wide berth so they can just deplatform everyone that has shit that's inconvenient for them. So, like, there isn't a lot of time left, So people that are active on social media or YouTube or whatever, I mean, now is the time to hold these people's feet to the fire. It's now. We don't have a lot of time. People in independent media need to get this stuff out. I don't have a YouTube channel. I just write shit because I don't like putting myself out there. I don't want to be a public figure. I like sitting in my writing cave, and I honestly don't have a political ideology I describe to. My political ideology is burn it all down and let me go live in the fucking woods. That's how I feel.
Hey, me too.
Right.
That's a shared ideology.
So I'm just pretty much out here saying this stuff because, like, someone's got to do it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, not only do we have a week until the election, but we also have until January for the decision in the Julian Assange extradition case, which essentially decides whether we'll allow the act of publishing something that goes against the government narrative to be effectively criminalized or not. And people are just sitting back being like, yeah, did you see that latest Joe Biden campaign ad? It was real sick, bro. Real think he's gonna give it to Trump this time. It's like, you dipshit. Like
cartoon. We live in a fucking cartoon.
Where can people find your stuff, Whitney?
All right, so I'm still on Twitter for the time being, but I give it a week. Right? Well, especially because of what I'm going to be doing this week, right? So you can find my stuff on Twitter for now, but what people really need to do to keep up with my stuff, you need to go to my website, unlimitedhangout.com. Scroll to the bottom. You can sign up for a mailing list, get stuff in your inbox. If you are using Gmail, stop. Time to sign up for something that's not Google, because Google is part of this whole deplatforming crazy stuff, and they are blocking MailChimp, like email newsletters, from sites they don't like. They've already started doing that. So if you have a Gmail and you're hoping to get like my newsletter, my articles in your inbox, that's also, limited. So sign up for something else while you can. I'm also on Rockfin. That seems to be pretty, censorship proof, at least for now. And I can also make money because I'm people like me and Ryan, we're about to be taken off of PayPal. We're about to be taken off of Patreon. PayPal has been, people that have had their YouTube channels deleted in the past week have had their PayPal shut down and have had their Patreon shut down. It hasn't happened to Ryan yet or to me yet, but I mean, they've set the precedent. It can happen. So Rockfin's a really good way to support people like myself and Ryan. So I have a channel there. On my Rockfin channel, all the election stuff I started off talking on the show with, this Philadelphia thing, I'm going to do a whole, probably 2 video reports that are going to go on just on Rockfin. And Ryan's going to put them out on his BitChute channel and some other stuff where I'm going to go over. The first one's going to be a whole overview of my entire Cyber Reason series and the 2 updates to that series. I did one in July for TLAB and then had another one about the CTI League, which is all part of the same shit. And then the second one's going to be all about this Philadelphia stuff and all the media reports with all this predictive programming stuff for Philadelphia being literally on fire and stuff like this, and calling it ground zero a bazillion times in 2 weeks. It's just all really just maddening. So all of that's going to be on my Rockfin channel. So Rockfin isn't like YouTube. You have to sign up for a free account to watch stuff, even if it's free, but please do that, because this is really a great platform for supporting people that are creating content or about to be deplatformed from payment processors, because it pays in crypto. It monetizes much better than YouTube. So please consider doing it. You don't even have to sign up for a paid subscription to Rockfin. But if you do pay Rockfin, you get access to the premium content of everyone on there. So you get all of Jason Burmis's premium stuff, or Graham Elwood's or Jimmy+Dore's premium stuff, and whoever else is on there if you pay one time.
We're live on Rockfin right now.
Right. So I would consider, I would consider doing that, at least make a free account for Rockfin. And I think that's really about it. I have a unlimited hangout. My site has a channel on Telegram now, if you're on there. I am putting my tweets there for now, but like I said, it's limited time for me to be on Twitter. Well, I mean, I have 83,000 followers now, and, I can put some of this stuff on blast they don't want on blast. And also shame people in independent media for not covering stuff, which I'm considering doing, but we'll see how bad things get. But,
Yeah. All right. Well, Whitney Webb, thank you so much. Glory, what you got?
Holy shit. I'll see I'll see if I can put something together that's coherent enough after the show. If you're not following Whitney Webb already, what are you doing, first of all? And yeah, literally, just keep paying attention to what's going on behind the scenes, because that's what it's really all about. It's not about this shit show full of massive douche cunts that just want to sell your soul to the fucking national security state. It's not about any of that. It's just I can't even believe what's going on today. And yeah, you can find me on Twitter. Just look up Glory Jones and I'll come up with a hashtag Free Assange next to it. I might be on the ground today. Who knows? Never really know. But yeah, just hopefully I maintain some of my coherence after today's show. But yeah, that's what I'll say.
We're going to start the Glory Jones emergency bail fund, because she's going to be out in the street shaking people later. Straight shaking motherfuckers. That's going to do it for this episode of Slow News Day. One more time, I want to remind everyone that we do stream on Rockfin every time that we go live. and that I would vastly prefer the audience to come and hang out there, as opposed to YouTube, because I'm not sure how much longer they're going to let me keep this channel. So let me echo what Whitney said. It doesn't cost anything to make a Rockfin account. You can sign up for free. What I normally do with my content is I'll set it to free for a day or two and then put it up to premium. But yeah, if you endorse Slow News Day for $9.99 a month, you get access to everybody else's premium content. I've been trying to encourage people that are patrons on Patreon to cancel that and to support me on Rockfin, because again, it just works out better for you financially. And yeah, fuck, dude, thanks, Whitney.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime.
Been fantastic. We should get together right after election day too to kind of go over.
Well, I'm just going to be real with you. I've been writing about the election like all year. Like I said, my Cyber Reason series was in January. The day of the election, I am not going to be near my phone. I am going to go near the freaking volcano behind my house and just be like, look at their shit and forget the election's even happening. Like, I don't want to know.
No, it's a great plan. It is.
There's some really crazy stuff they're planning to do. I mean, go back and read my series. They are going to hack vehicles and ram them into people waiting in line to vote. I mean, they gamed all this out, and it's no coincidence. We had a couple days ago, I can't remember if it was FBI or DHS. They're like, neo-Nazis are going to run people over, but they were talking about it being, hacked vehicles. They can still do that. I mean, these people are going to kill people, just like they did on 9/11. They killed like over 3,000 Americans.
Fun times.
Well, on that,
some real shit. Things are about to get real. I mean, it's time.
Stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready.
Yeah, that's fucking fantastic advice. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Fuck, man. Good luck to us all.